You're listening to Scary Ideas. I'm Tim Weichselbaum. This is episode 8. Today's topic is being a woman in comedy and the division between men and women in America and sexism in general. The first guest, I have not officially met yet, but I thought she'd be a good guest because she knows of me from telling a bunch of misogynistic jokes at open mics. So I thought this be a fun place to clear the air. She's also a comedian and a writer, so I'd like to welcome to the show Jessica. How's it going?
Hi.
Hey. So,
Hey.
would you be okay going over how you first became aware of me, just for the audience?
Just for everybody. Yeah. So we were at a live one at an open mic, and you were doing really well. Like, you really were. You're getting all the laughs, and then you made a joke about how you still like Louis C.K. And I'm not even offended by that. I think he's he's a shitty person. But it's a no-brainer how we all feel about Louis C.K. And I got on stage when it was my turn, and my kind of brand in my comedy is shitting on men. So I got on stage and I teased your joke a little, and I said, it was like, 1 minute you were feminist and the next you were like, psych. And it was just, I was just riffed off of it a little bit, and I was mocking feminism, even though you weren't really, but like, that was kind of the format of the joke. And then you seemed to have gotten upset and you walked away. And then I just downward spiraled. I downward spiraled and felt apologetic. And then the next time we saw each other was at, I can't think of the name, another open mic.
Yeah.
And then you were doing like the guitar riffs on stage, and you left just in time for me to start doing my comedy. And you know what they say about assuming makes an ass of you and me. And I assumed you had gotten off stage in defiance, like, of my set. Like, you hated me. I thought you hated me. And maybe you did, and that's fine. But you just get really sensitive to these things. And I guess that kind of, obviously, we're cool now. Like, we cleared the air. But it kind of, that kind of opens the gate for me to kind of talk about what I do think is the difference between just being anybody in comedy when you're not a straight cis white man, which, like, I hate saying that over and over again because I know I sound like a snowflake, and I am, but, you know, every time I say, you know, men in the next however many minutes, you could assume I mean, you know, straight white men.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. So, in any case, I think the biggest difference is, there's a factorial amount of things you have to consider when you're on stage as to why you're bombing or why you're not bombing. You know, it could be that you're just genuinely not funny that day, like you're screwing up your own jokes. Maybe you're not feeling as confident, and that's coming across to your audience. Maybe there's like music going on as soon as you get on stage that's distracting. Maybe people just aren't in the mood to laugh. Like, maybe these people just aren't opting into your brand, and that's okay. Or maybe, you know, like, maybe just the temperature is weird inside. Like, it could be anything. And I think that's hard enough. And then when you're not a man, you have the extra that's the one extra you have another factor to consider, which is maybe people are sexist in this audience. Maybe they're just sick of trying to be woke all the time and they're just fatigued. Maybe they genuinely don't think women are funny. I honestly, unironically, I met a guy a couple weeks ago at a baseball game, a friend of a friend, and we were talking about our hobbies, and he unironically said, like, women aren't funny. Like, there's still people who have these beliefs today.
Shit, yeah. Well, you covered a lot of stuff so far. I think.
Yeah, so I'm gonna you talk now.
That was a really good you have a good memory, first of all, for the events that led to you us becoming aware of each other. It was a very clunky way to meet another comedian, and then also I think that just goes to show how the comedy world is these days. If you happen to be the type of person or comedian who actually kind of shines a light onto political topics such as like, I don't know, just I don't know even what to call it, just gender relations, like
Gender relations.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I hear you. It's just anything that is remotely politically, socially conscious, I guess.
And so, but that example of how we, that first mic that you saw me at, and I, if you want me to explain it further, if you're interested,
Sure.
It was basically a room that's it was like 90% women comics. So I was like, okay.
Right, yeah.
So I not that there's anything wrong with that. I love anything about any audience. I will anyway. So I went up there. I started off doing well, and then I completely lost them on some joke. I don't remember which. It was probably the one where I complain. It's a sexist joke. Anyway, it was about like my dentist being a woman, and
okay.
Anyway, so
were you being ironic?
Oh, definitely.
Right, but people don't necessarily know that, right?
Right, and I took that.
I know that now.
Yeah, so I took that personally, kind of, because I was like, oh shit, they didn't get it. So then I got off stage and I tried to just let it pass, but then the host goes up and says something about how and then you go up and you go into how, I thought I was going to be a feminist, but then he wasn't. I was like, and the reason I got so defensive is because I literally felt like I was on defense mode.
You were misunderstood and miscategorized.
But I was immature in the end. I mean, but also that made me think about it when you did remember the fact that it got under your skin.
It affected me. Yeah.
That means that maybe I'm kind of underestimating my effect or my words, like maybe, or my anything. Maybe like they're not all bad. Like maybe these.
I don't know. I think we all have to make a choice at some point as to. I think there are plenty of people who would have gotten your jokes, and I was getting your jokes. I genuinely, I was just trying to have a good time by teasing you a little bit, and I didn't know who you were. And I think sometimes we go on stage and we forget we're like a human, like our soul leaves our body. We'll say anything to see what will get a laugh, and I think that's sometimes very problematic. But I think both of us probably made assumptions about each other in that moment.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
I've only been doing stand-up since March.
Okay.
I like to think I'm pretty good. Like, I like to think I'm good at stand-up, considering I did just start last March.
Yeah,
I obviously bombed. But I'm definitely new to the scene, and I'm lucky enough to have done what's called feminine comique. People call it femcom, and what's kind of nice about being a woman in the space, femcom.
Never heard.
What's kind of nice is that you can get oriented into the space with a community of women who just like want to support women. And I do think, and we can like talk about this a little later down the conversation, but I do sometimes think women have a harder time getting to be funny because we are so unabashedly kind of supportive of one another to the extent that sometimes we're not honest with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so femcom is short for feminine comedy or feminist or female.
It's a cliche, but yeah.
I assume
feminine
female.
Comique.
Oh, feminine.
It's
so
female identifying.
It's a catch-all. Gotcha. I never heard of that, but it sounds interesting. There's So anyway, I guess just to wrap up the thing, I was just gonna say how it was not personal from my end. I just looked at it as a group of women who hated me, so I had to get out of there. I see.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I feel like it's like all fight or flight, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, we all kind of navel gaze and write our jokes and take ourselves very seriously and take each other very seriously. And at the end of the day, we're all kind of just human with a fight, flight, or freeze response. And, like, unfortunately, it's at the viewing of other people, like whatever reactions we have in such like kind of a heated emotional space, like it's going to be in front of people, which kind of just like reinforces that stressful like brain activity. And I just think people lose touch with that. Like, everybody in the room is human, everybody's trying their best, and most people, even if they are genuinely offensive, just uninformed people who just have no empathy in the world, like they're still trying their best. So I think it's just like nice to remind myself at times that, you know, stop taking myself so seriously, stop taking other people so seriously. We're all just people, like, wasting time.
It's good to be reminded of that
Yeah.
every once in a while. But and also, I guess we are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, because you obviously come from the femcom. That's why you said that you do comedy to kind of get something again. How did you phrase it? You don't
I said I
you
love
don't
to
hate
shit
men.
on men.
You just
No,
want
I
to
just
shit
like
on
to
them.
shit on them.
Gotcha. And
Well, I had a bad experience. I think I told you this at a tech startup. I had a pretty sexist experience, which resulted in me being fired. I can't talk too much about it, but essentially, and then mixed with the fact I knew a comic in the space, a guy who told me I should get into it because he thought that I was funny, and he kind of planted the seed, and there were all these things that kind of evolved, and I was like, I am funny, and I was going to these open mics, and I was like, I am funnier than a lot of these men, and then all this shit happened at work, and I was like, I need an outlet. I also like attention. I like performing, and I'm philosophical, and it all just kind of came together, and yeah, you're right, like, it was totally kind of filtered through this program, which was, you know, very empowering for women and totally like supportive of my message. So it has been nice. So yeah. Go ahead.
When you say you shit on men, you do it with love.
I do it with love, 100%. That's actually a really good way of putting it.
Do you think any women do it with like actual? Do you think it exists? These comedians who actually do hateful jokes towards men? Because I see comedians who do jokes about at men's expense all the time. Like it's very trendy right now, especially in certain rooms like the safe spaces or what. Like, so you're saying, do you think any of those women are hateful or need to be? And if so, is it a bad thing? Even if they are, like, should they be called out for it? Like, that's the final question on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really convoluted and interesting question, and actually something I've been thinking about lately. I was just in LA and I did stand up there, and I was staying in a hostel with a friend, and there was this guy who we ended up hanging out with. He was British. I don't know if that's relevant, but like it could be culturally. I don't know. But I think I said something to kind of generalize about men. Like you said, it's kind of trendy. I think we've kind of become very loosey-goosey in how we generalize about men. Like, men are sexist, or like men are trash. And we'll say these things and we don't actually intend to mean all men. And I think it's cathartic for a lot of women. And I think the bottom line, and I think a lot of people feel this way, basically I said something to generalize about men, and this British guy said, that's sexist. And I was like, F you. Like, no, it's not sexist. So I think on the one hand, I can understand why men would get, again, we're all human. If you're saying something that generalizes about, you know, a group of people that includes you, and you don't feel like you identify with that negative trait they're saying, like, of course you're going to feel defensive. But at the same time, anytime a woman says something to generalize about men being shitty in any way, shape, or form, it's not reinforcing it's not disenfranchising them, you know, like it's not causing them to have lower salaries. It's not causing them to be killed if they cheat on their wives. Like it's not causing them to just be, you know, generally treated poorly by saying these general things about them. I think when people say generalized things about women, like women aren't funny, or like, you know, women are whatever it is, even if it's a lot more subtle than that, it's perpetuating something that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I think it's what it symbolizes, and I'm sure there are women, I guess, in the world who are genuinely misandrous, who just hate men, but I've never met one. I've really never met one, but I do agree. I do think you're right. It's trending, and sometimes it's not funny, and I think but just like any other joke, it's hard to get a joke to be funny sometimes, and especially when it is revolved around something kind of heated. And I think we all kind of have a responsibility to be as crafty as we can if we're trying to be on stage. We want stage time and we want people to laugh. If we're going to bring up such sensitive topics, like, you got to get crafty without sounding like you're just generally angry at people in the audience. Like, I think it's an art. So yeah, I think fair. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's just so hard not to notice a pattern and feel like, geez, right, like these women. But no, I don't know. I do jokes that are definitely sexist, and I get called all the names that you deserve, that I should be, but also I defend the jokes. Like, I did a joke about incels where I defended them, and it didn't work. But sometimes with the premise I like, because it's unique, because it shows an unpopular opinion, and
right.
That's just the type of comedy that I love, is unpopular opinions, not just going with the popular one. But anyway,
do you write about, so like, is that like when you're writing and you have a premise and you want to come up with a punchline, your MO is to be like, how do I misdirect, or how do I twist this so it's an unpopular opinion? Like, that's kind of your
pretty much
go-to?
I mean, I don't have to twist it. I already am just naturally unpopular the way I think, because I'm used, because I kind of went through I kind of shed the whole giving a fuck about what this, you know, what the comedy scene thinks, or what liberals think. I don't really fall into any agenda that is a framework. I kind of just pick and choose which opinion, like, I think for myself, I'd like to say. Like, I'd like to say I just think for myself on every issue, but also you need to get your information from somewhere. So to avoid the bias is very tough. But I guess to bring this back to comedy, do you ever feel like, so you said, and I think we're opposites in that I'm a male who does anti-female, like, I shit on women, you shit on men, and I think that's interesting. I have a discourse, because I don't know, very few people are actually willing to. And anyway, so the division between, like you said when you messaged me that as a woman you feel like the elephant in the room very often.
Sometimes.
And that's kind of how I felt at the very one time that I was at a mostly female mic, which is like, it was kind of refreshing actually to feel like a minority for once, like, 'cause I'm a cisgender male, and straight, also straight, and
right.
So you said that you often that it is hurtful when a man just walks, you know, doesn't like you by the sight of you, and I don't think I've had that experience with a female or any comic just walking out on me, so I totally understand why that would be weird. I mean, at least, you know, get under your, I don't know, I guess I never thought.
It's vulnerable. You're already vulnerable just standing on stage, you know, like, everything is kind of heightened. But like, Sorry, I interrupted. Okay, my cats are like hissing at one another. Let me get off speaker.
Oh, no
Okay,
worries.
stop.
Yes, it's just one of the challenges of doing a literal call-in show with phones that makes it,
Uh-huh.
it's like old school. It's very old school.
I know, it's fun. I'm having fun.
Cool.
But
So you're vulnerable on stage, and I agree with that, regardless of. I think I've had
you
this
are.
conversation before. That
yeah.
regardless of who you are, your background, it's vulnerable just to be doing stand-up comedy.
Right. I mean, and for the record, you were saying, like, shitting on men is how I got into comedy. I don't know if that's going to continue to be my brand. When I write jokes, it's just whatever I think is funny in my head, I write it down, and I either come up with a punchline or I don't. And I try to be as authentic as I can, and it just so happens to be that my experience lately has been over, sexism, and so it is something I'm passionate about at the moment. I mean, I'll always be passionate about it, but like actively passionate about
It's
it
a good
right
catalyst.
now, like, in
I mean,
this time in my life. What'd you say?
it's a good catalyst to get into something if it's if it's your
Exactly.
true experience, and there's no lack.
Right.
I feel like sexism is pretty alive. So it's
Yeah, like it's there. It's there, and it's not like I don't think I'm a saint. I don't think I'm like breaking the mold and like changing the world, but like it's been very empowering for me. And anytime I meet a woman now, like I just come, because I meet a lot of people every day, and anytime I come in across a woman who just makes me giggle, I'll be like, have you ever done stand-up? And
Okay.
even if I like don't, I just like planting the seed because someone did that for me. And I don't think I would have ever done it if someone hadn't planted the seed. I think that is the barrier in and of itself to women doing stand-up comedy, just like barriers to like women becoming presidents. Like, you just don't even consider it. You grow up with the schema in your head. You have like concepts in your head of who does what, and it just doesn't necessarily occur to you that that's something you would be capable of. And I think men tend to be more likely to just wake up and be like, I could do this, just by proxy of just like, the patriarchy. And again, like, I know I sound like a snowflake. I know, like, and it's too bad, like, you haven't been able to have too many conversations with people that kind of do share my point of view. And I think that's just a problem in itself with today's political climate, right? Is that like no one's actually listening to each other. No one, you just kind of hear things that smart people say, and you're like, I agree with that, and then you repeat it and you pretend like it's your own.
Right, and also
thought.
very few people are actually open to being convinced of something new, I think, once they have their
Right.
position established. It's like, oh, do I want to even talk to somebody if I know that they're not going to change?
Right.
There's not going to be any common ground. It's just going to be, okay. It's
Or
literally
it's just exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, like, it's just exhausting for everybody. Like, it's exhausting to have to defend the way you want to be treated as just a person in society. Like, it's exhausting. If you seemed like someone to me that, if you seemed like a person that would not listen, I wouldn't have had this conversation with you. Like, by your messages with me, like, you clearly were open to a conversation. If you apologized, you're an open person. But if I wouldn't be having this conversation just with any, with like some bigot on the street. Like, I don't understand why people travel to like rural America to like test their jokes there if their jokes just are obviously not going to work in rural America. I don't understand that ideology. Like, I don't understand why people think that that's going to better them as a comic. Like, the whole point of having a brand is people opt in and opt out, right? Like, that's what makes a strong brand, not just like appealing to everybody.
Is your
That
goal?
was a
I mean, so you started obviously in comedy with, but with the most of your premises, if not all of them, it seems, are they still 100% about shitting on men, or have you kind of started to be like, hey, maybe I could just be observation. Maybe I could just, I'm just wondering, like, and also another question, do you do well in front, like what rooms do you prefer to do, and also I assume you'd kill in front of men. That's a boring question. I know there's men who laugh at anything that's funny, but do
Yeah.
you? I'm trying to think of an intelligent question.
You're saying who's my preferable audience, and you also asked, are 100% of my jokes shitting on men? I think that's a good enough question, and
Okay.
I think the answer is that no. I mean, right now I probably have 20 minutes worth of half-baked material, and I have 5 minutes of solid material that has worked for me consistently at shows and at open mics. And when they don't work, I don't think it's, like, it's not a reflection of the words of the jokes themselves. It's a number of factors, but you get to a point where you know which jokes work for sure. Just statistically, most of the time. So no, I mean, I've got jokes about, in terms of observational, most of my jokes are observational of my own kind of like stupid thoughts, and then I kind of enhance them. Like, I have a joke, and funny enough, this is kind of on topic.
All right, here's a real question.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you
Go ahead.
do you count it as a real laugh if only women are laughing, or
I've gotten men and women to laugh, so that's not even like a benchmark that I have. No, in the same room. But I hear what you're saying. Like, I think it's important to do both rooms. You got to get a litmus test of whether, also, like, you have to start to gauge whether people are pity laughing. Like, I think that could be a problem sometimes with all female rooms, is that we are very empathetic. We're more likely, generally speaking, we tend to be more empathetic and just like more conditioned to laugh even when something is not funny. And I think that is a barrier to women getting funny in comedy, because sometimes you can't tell if it's a room filled with.
So you're saying women tend to be more generous with their laughter.
Yeah.
That would kind of set me to believe that, or make me wonder if when you do get a laugh from a group of bro-y dudes, does that feel different or more validating in some way?
I mean, that's like very insightful of you, and it's like I don't think that's something any of us would want to admit to, but honestly, like, and maybe I'll regret saying this, but yeah, like 100%. And I don't know why I feel embarrassed saying that, because it's just like one more thing where it's like I need to be validated by a man. It's like,
it's not even, it definitely touches on that, but it also just touches on whether this whole safe space thing is really valuable to the craft. Like, if you only even for men, if I only, because I'm the opposite, I only do well in front of men. So for me, not that you'd only do well in front of women, but I tend to only kill in front of men. So if there's women laughing at my ridiculous sexist shit, that is the best validation ever, just because it crosses the gender barrier. And for all the other societal, and for all the other reasons that are natural, because, I'm straight or whatever. But it just touches on whether safe spaces are good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think my thing is, you're right, there is a safe space thing, there's a sensitivity thing. I personally don't understand when people get I'm one to joke to say, like, stop being offended by people being offended. Like, people are allowed to be offended by jokes, they're allowed to not think things are funny. But in terms of, like, getting women or just non-male comics more oriented into the space is just kind of like is working together. Like, a male comic reached out to me recently, and he wants to write with me, and I was really excited by that, because it's just another person to, spin ideas off of. And I think men, if they do want to be inclusive to women, because same thing with the workplace, like, you can have diversity without there really being inclusion, like, they got to go hand in hand. And I think as a man in the space, if you do want to be more inclusive, I think men could reach out to people. And it's funny though, because some women are like, why are men giving me tips? Like, you don't want to just like unsolicited walk up to a woman and be like, this would be funnier if like, like, you don't want to do that, but like just talking to each other, right? Just like talking to each other, ask women, like, how did you get into this? just like talk to each other. And I think that's gonna I think just push the dialogue and make comedy better. I think, is anybody really being funny if they're, I mean, like we said, a brand is a brand. It's okay to not appeal to everyone, but at the end of the day, like, you're the one that has to live with yourself, right? So, like, you just have to be okay with what you're doing. And if you do want women to be laughing at you, then yeah, you should probably talk to more women.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you happen to be a fan of stand-up at all before you got into it, or no?
That's what's funny. Like, not real. Like, I wasn't even a comedy aficionado by any means. Like,
That's interesting.
the first, there were a couple of specials I had watched that made me pee my pants laughing. I've always loved to laugh. I've been to stand-up shows, but it was never like, but like, I had a boyfriend for 4 years who was super into it, and he didn't even, like, I just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. All it took was someone telling me what, like, as soon as I realized it's something I could do is when I started getting super invested
Gotcha.
in it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I
okay.
have other hobbies.
That's interesting. Yeah, so you weren't a fan, but then you found out you could do it, and then did you get addicted to just the feeling of getting laughs pretty much right out of the gate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lucked out. The first time I did an open mic, it was before so the FemCom thing is nice because they put together this showcase, and you get all your friends together and you say, we're all trying stand up for the first time. I wanted to do it before FemCom, and I visited some friends in Denver, and I was like, I'm going to do this in Denver where I don't live. So if I suck, like, I'll leave town the next Saturday.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, like, I think I'm self-aware. Like, I was the funniest person at this open mic. I'm not saying, I watch it now, I'm like, wow, that was pretty shitty. But, like, I think I was just a fresh face in it's a smaller circle in Denver. I was a fresh face. I surprised people. And it was just, sometimes you just have a good night where you're like, you're one of the best. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, 100% instantly addicted.
Okay.
Instantly. But my first time bombing, I don't even remember my first time bombing. I know I have bombed. I know it's set me back, like, where I'll, like, not do it for a couple weeks. There was a month hiatus I took. So it's as disappointing as it is addicting, right? Like, I feel like people think comedians are just, like, ruthless and 100% okay with rejection. But, like, again, we're all human. Like, it feels really shitty to bomb.
Okay, yeah, I think there are a lot of new people getting into comedy for reasons that are completely unpaid. Like, it's a new reason that people get into it, but they're still comedians. So I appreciate anyone who's growing the marketplace for comedy. You don't have to be someone who watches Comedy Central since you were 10 to get into this. I happen to be that. I always knew I was funny because I was like a class clown and shit like that. But it took me to actually do it to actually think I could do it. And otherwise I was like, nah.
Did you write jokes for a long time before you started, or did you write jokes to start?
I don't know. I wrote funny, dumb little songs and stuff like that. And
okay.
But anyway,
yeah, I know, like, go ahead.
I just think it's good that it's growing. Like, just because it's FemCom, as you just put it, which I'm going to start using because that's a nice way to put it, that there's all these, not just women, not just feminists, but people from a different market. I'll just say that because it is a market that people want. It's probably the number one thing is what I call just woke comedy, or there's mean words for it.
I think you're too quick to categorize. I do. I will say I'm serious because
no, you're right. I'm just laughing because of how biased I know I sound.
Yeah. But I could easily categorize you. Like, that's just what our brains do.
Easily. How would you categorize me if you were to?
Like, right now, knowing you now.
The meanest way.
No, I don't have a meanest way, but I think what I'm gathering about you is that you are a very philosophical thinker. You think very deeply about the world around you and the people around you, and you seem like someone who wants to learn and you want to grow from comedy and you take your comedy seriously. But I think not. I don't think you sound like if you were to be a political affiliation, like I could see you being libertarian. You know, like
That's it. That's the meanest. That's the worst thing. Okay.
I mean, my uncle is like, he doesn't define himself. Super smart guy. I think again, I'm categorizing, I'm benchmarking you against people I've met in my lifetime. I don't know you that well, but you seem like someone who wants to grow with society, but you keep your finger to the pulse and while still trying to be really critical about you're critical. You're critical of the world around you. You second guess things. You question things, and that's a good way to be. But you also clearly seem like someone where, like, if you continuously rub people the wrong way, you seem like you want to learn from that, not just ignore it and just kind of like recklessly upset people. You seem like someone who cares.
Yeah, I usually feel bad afterwards after that.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
Because as you do comedy, you do get this. I don't want to tell you how, this is not just anyone, but for me, you know Mark Maron?
No.
Okay, good. I'll just leave you. I'm not going to tell you anything more about me because you just summed me up very nicely. And libertarian is a pretty nice, pretty soft label. But yeah, that's nothing. That's nice. Anyway, but back to what we were saying. If you, this has been a very good call so far. There's a couple of people who want to call in, and so maybe I'll just ask you maybe just another thing here about
Sure.
So we were talking about like how there is like a growing desire to be to have like safe spaces and to actually be kind of not censor comedians, but be very like offended by. And you just said how you're sick of people getting offended by people being offended, and I kind of like that because I think it is annoying, just as annoying, to be offended by other people being offended. You kind of just have to roll with it, I think, because there's consequences to everything. But what about like? So you probably agree with me on most of that, but also I'm learning. But so you obviously would say that there's a disparity between men and women. There's a patriarchy still in the U.S.
Everywhere, yeah.
Because that's a very umbrella statement. It's a blanket statement a little bit. You'd have to be more. But you think, what about in comedy? Is there a patriarchy in comedy?
Yeah, I think that's what we've covered for the last hour.
Is it?
I don't think it's intentional necessarily everywhere. I think Chicago is you keep calling it. Chicago is a safe space, men included, I think, for the most part. And I think that's okay to be funny in a safe space. And I think you're right. Sometimes it's going to be fake and pity laughy and not authentic, but a lot of the time it is authentic. And I can say with 100% confidence that my quote unquote woke jokes are genuinely funny, and sometimes they don't land in the same way everybody's jokes sometimes don't land. And I've had jokes that get pity laughs. I know which ones they are. Mm-hmm. And I think it just takes an amount of learning and growing to be able to, discern which is which. But in terms of there being a patriarchy in comedy, of course there's a patriarchy in comedy. I just think sometimes we all get too defensive or like you say like this is like everybody's offended, or you didn't say that necessarily, but it's like everyone's offended.
Pretty much everyone is.
Everybody's offended.
Even I get offended by certain things. So yeah.
Oh, of course, but I think it's also a very defensive, very defensive space where like, and part of the problem is the way we talk to each other. I've said some stupid things that are microaggressions against people of color. In the history of being a white person, like I've said things that are totally offensive that I would be embarrassed to even revisit or reveal but I had to learn at some point. And I think
if you believe in the concept of microaggressions, then yeah, we're all guilty of that. I've done 1,000 of them in the past month, but doesn't mean they got any negative consequences, because it's just part of. Anyway,
Well,
we
that's
don't
why
have to
they
get into
keep
that.
happening.
So just any evidence of a patriarchy in the Chicago comedy scene that you could just point to?
Like an example, I don't know. It's always
That's what I'm
subtle. I
wondering.
feel like people. It's so subtle. It's like little cuts every day. It's not like it's not like someone's like, "Get me a sandwich, you
okay.
bitch." Like,
Right.
it's not like,
And
no,
it's
like,
not
it's
males like leading. Like when I think of patriarchy, I think men are at the top, and there's a hierarchy that leads from there,
Well,
leads down from there. I don't know.
the
That's
way
how-
I tend to
Go ahead.
conceptualize it, if I were to like say it in a sentence, I think of it, it's like it's a man's world. Everybody else is just living in it, kind of. Like, you just think of like all the movies and all the media in which everything is from a man's point of view. And women, as women, we grow up, we read these magazines, and it's all about pleasing men and seeing everything from a man's point of view. And that's just been going on for so long. So what's so kind of symbolic about stand-up comedy in and of itself is that you're hearing new perspectives. With a growing, you could call it market, like, it's just, you're hearing more perspectives, and it's uncomfortable because for the longest time, I think a man's voice has been more heard.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with
Go
you to some extent on that, but because I come from, obviously, like I was saying, opposite aisle. I think there's a matriarchy right now. Like if you're talking like bleeding, if you're talking like the current state of comedy, I think a lot of women are the ones deciding what is good quality.
That's interesting.
They might not be booking the clubs.
You're saying like the pendulum has swung the complete opposite direction is kind of what you're saying.
That's my point of view. From my point of view, the men are the ones getting pummeled, and they're the ones being forced downward and to reconsider them and be like, no, that's not passable. That joke is offensive or something. Like, that's just my perspective. I feel like certain rooms are led by these by women, actually.
I think maybe ironically, I can see what you're saying in terms of, and it all just kind of plays into the same concept of like the safe space and who's kind of like the holder of it, and
because you're saying there's safe spaces for men too.
Well, I wasn't say that, but yeah, there will always be a safe space for men. And
you think so?
The thing is, I don't even know what the thing is. I don't remember what I was going to say. No, there's not like a matriarchy right now. I just think the pendulum is swinging, and people will go to extremes for social change. I think that's how it's always been. You got like, there are always people at the other end of the spectrum just going totally extreme, and really it's not extreme. I mean, like, there's nothing extreme about it, about women just wanting to talk into a microphone and get good at stand-up comedy uninhibited by men perpetuating this idea that women aren't funny.
Well, then in that sense, I totally agree. They should not be inhibited by some dumb idea that's not true. Because nobody that I've ever talked to does not want there to be more women in comedy. So
of course,
there's definitely something stopping them. We like it, but that's kind of changing. The pendulum is swinging. I just want them to be fun. As long as they're in it for the funny, that's all I care about.
It's all in people can do things for different reasons. You're right. The point is to try to be funny on stage. I think that's
where I come from. I'm a purist in that sense. I just want you to try to go for the laugh, not for the clap.
Yeah, but it's okay for things to stop being funny because they're offensive, because I know for a fact, and I wish I was like more educated on this and was like, studied this all the time, but I know for a fact there's some example out there that there's a joke from 50 years ago, I'm sure, that is so offensive and probably equally so unfunny. And I think just like language, comedy has to evolve. I think our language becoming more, I understand people get super irritated by the political correctness, but the way we talk, the way I see it, the way we talk shapes the way we think. So like, yeah, I think it's okay to be correcting each other. I think we could all be better communicators, and that pours into another topic of like technology and like we're all bad at communicating.
Okay.
But I think it's okay that we're all having this like tension. Like I think that means there's social change.
I agree with that.
And yeah, and I
And
know
then-
I've offended people, and I know what it feels like to be defensive of offending people because we're a
Okay.
full circle conversation. We're all trying our best.
So you're saying that there are jokes in the 50s that were offensive and unfunny, but do you mean that in today's...
Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
but back then they were funny, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
isn't that okay then, as long as they were funny? Because that's all being a comedian is being funny that night.
I'm
So-
not saying it's okay or not okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying to try to push comedy in a way that feels less offensive and more politically correct to people, I think that's okay. And I don't think that's because it seems like the point of view you're kind of coming from, and maybe I'm wrong, but is that you think it's a threat to comedy, this safe space, this political correctness.
The way you said
is
it,
what I'm hearing.
you said less offensive, more politically correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds almost synonymous with less funny, because
Yeah, I know. Okay.
funny could be ignorant, as long as
Totally,
you
and-
know why it's ignorant. In my
Sure, but
opinion, go ahead. Or even in the '60s when they were doing the Rat Pack. It's a racist joke. They did a racist joke about Sammy Davis Jr. They
Okay.
did many of them, but they knew it was obviously offensive. I think even then, I think they were smart enough to know that obviously this is not something you're supposed to say, but they were obviously still gonna say it though because it was funny. So that's why I'm a purist in that sense. I like to preserve,
Well, yeah, I mean, you're
conserve any ignorance can be funny. That's why I do it.
But for me, it has to be crafted right. Ignorance could be funny if it's clearly ironic.
Oh, okay, I
think
agree.
You can
Yeah.
have you can have edgy jokes.
It has to
It can
be
totally
clearly
dark
ironic.
and totally edgy while
It has to
being
be
socially
clear.
conscious.
So you have to kind of do like a funny voice, or you have to do something to show that I'm
Right.
being ironic.
Yeah, or
Okay.
but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's a craft in and of itself to be dark without, and it's not just with gender or race even. Like sometimes, it could be like some jokes about suicide, jokes about mental illness,
Right.
jokes about anything that is particularly triggering to anybody in some way, shape, or form. And obviously in an audience filled with comics, we all have something that is has messed us up a bit. Like something's always going to be triggering to someone. I mean,
Right.
I have a joke where I say, it's a joke about how I have sex with a stranger and I want to have a reason to text him, and the reason being I was I hope I have an STD, I have herpes, you have herpes, we have herpes, there's no I in herpes, there's an R for relationship, whatever. That's speeding it up. And I changed it to crabs because I was you can get rid of crabs, and I don't want someone in the audience who has herpes, which statistically there will be, to be upset or distracted by that. So I think there are ways to change our jokes, and sometimes you're always going to rub somebody the wrong way. I think just it's if you have a microphone, I just think everybody has a little bit of a responsibility to just again, it's not just about making the people laugh, it's about just appealing to people in general. So you should aim to be somewhat sensitive to what might turn away an audience member, you know?
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's another thing that could be debatable too. Is some people just go, no, I don't care. I'm not gonna.
Screw
just
it.
depends how true to your. But no, I mean in that
Sure.
example,
There
probably.
are levels. It's not black and white, There
there's
are levels.
absolutely
I mean,
levels.
earlier in this conversation, I said you have a brand. Who cares if people opt out? That was something I said.
Right.
But but I also said you're the one that has to deal with yourself. So if your brand is just to offend people right and left, okay, have fun with that, right? That's not your brand. I know it's not. But you're saying you're dark. You're saying you're ironic. You're saying you're edgy. So you are challenging yourself to, sprinkle in some sensitivity to what is supposed to be inherently insensitive.
Well, that is a good piece of advice for me, because I am going through a conundrum of how offensive do I want to be. like, because people do accuse me of only doing it to try to offend people, and I never
instigate.
think I am. I just that I happen to think that saying messed up stuff is funny. Otherwise, I guess that's what I would be doing, because some people are not talented enough to even try to be funny. So I do take it when people say that, I get like, no, I'm just trying to be funny. No, I'm not a hack. No, I'm not just trying to. But no, so I think that's a good piece of advice for me, is to actually maybe think about, like, because refine it a little bit. But also, I don't know. I just think it's interesting to actually talk to somebody who is reasonable, but also on the side of being a little bit PC, politically correct.
Yeah, I mean, I have a joke right now that I'm working on that is a true story that, you know, I'm not telling because I'm still trying to say it in a way that doesn't offend people.
So you don't even want to try it at all in a raw form at open mics?
Well, so I'll tell this. So basically the story is that I was pulled over driving in LA with my friends. I just did something, like I drove over a part on the highway that I shouldn't have. It was safe. I wasn't putting anyone in danger. I was just like cutting a corner, and the cop was right there, and he pulled me over. And I was in such defense mode that I didn't, and like I'm a bad listener apparently. And the first thing he said to me is, "I'm going to let you off with a warning." And I kind of started defending myself, and I still got off with the warning. But my friends were joking. It's like you just talked yourself into a ticket and then out of the ticket. And it was a genuinely funny story. And I was like, and it obviously, like, you can't say that without, I mean, I'm a white woman. Like, that just seems like such a stereotypical, like, white woman. Like, but also, like, that's a really sensitive topic right now, in that black men and black women are, you know, totally endangered by police officers. And so for me to joke about that, sure, like, it is a funny story in that if I'm self-deprecating about it, but I still really care about the way I deliver it, so it's not insensitive to something that is genuinely worth being sensitive about. So,
I understand.
So
well, it's a good premise.
Yeah.
Take it from me, as someone who tries out the most unapologetic premises at open mics and does face the consequences proudly. It's a good premise.
Thank you.
It's
a true story. So,
I respect your boundaries in the audience's. I guess I don't know how you put it. Safety in their in their intellectual safety. But I'm not really. If you haven't noticed, I'm not really for safe spaces.
I know you're not, but
that's what open mics
are for. It's
not
just about them. It's also about me. It's also about me and how I want to be funny. I want to get laughs. And if you have to, like, what is the phrase we've all heard?
So you're worried about being judged in a way.
Know your audience.
Gotcha. No, of course. And read the room.
Read the room. And also, yeah, I mean, I know I'm going to, like, you know, I'm definitely going to, you know, run your jokes by people you know will have a good perspective on it. Right? You know, run your jokes by the people you're worried you're going to offend, if they have the tolerance for it, if you have if you have a good enough relationship with them. So
after a certain point, I just think that the people that get offended are just dumb. So I just don't even care. Because I do these jokes that are so bad and offensive that they definitely turn people off. But I also people come up to me and say that they like it, that I do that. So, like, I get respect for it. So if I learn how to do it properly, which takes a lot of work, then the end result, that's just my opinion. I'm just playing devil's advocate or something, but it happens to be what I actually believe, is that as long as you're true to what you think is funny, just work on the craft part. But in the end, you will have to, in particular, will have to bomb a lot in front of people that I do respect. But that also gains me respect. So, like, it's quite a conundrum. But I appreciated your take on it.
Well, I think you see the political climate. I think you see where society is heading. And, you know, you don't have to get on board. You know, you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid, but, like, it is good just to think about it, you know? Like, just, you know, Diane Ward, the band, or some band. They were canceled. Like everybody's talking about, like they're canceled because she did a
band?
hate crime.
Gotcha.
I
I didn't know bands were getting canceled. Shit. I thought music was the one place you're allowed to be a dick.
Well, it was homophobic. Apparently, there was a hate crime.
Fair enough.
And so they were pulled from Riot Fest. Yeah, and everybody's just, there's some people who are like, yeah, duh, like cancel that. Like, I'm Jewish. If there was a band that like beat up a Jewish person for being Jewish, like that's my immediate way to empathize.
If they beat someone up for it, yeah.
Yeah, my instinct would be, cancel the fucker. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but like cancel them. Okay, cool.
You're not only allowed to swear, you're allowed to call for cancellations too.
Yeah, so like I feel, but then there are people who are like, you're taking away music because you're sensitive. Same thing with comedy. Like, you're taking it away, but it's like, no, we're evolving. We are evolving as people, and like, we're just weeding out the shitty behavior is what we're doing. It's all a part of evolving, and I think people either could apologize and try to learn and adapt and get on board with where the rest of the world is going, which is having a more equal society, or you can just get really upset because you're offended that they're offended.
Right. Well, hey, that's a good retort to people. I mean, yeah.
Right. That is my retort.
I am for evolution of people, ideas, society.
Yeah.
So I think like every time we exchange a topic, it always turns into more topics that I could get into. So I think I would love to have you back on. At a certain point, and but I think it's a good place to wrap it up.
If you want to write together, dude, like if you want to run jokes by each other, I would love to.
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
All right, cool. Thanks for
having me.
Absolutely. All right, that was our first caller. That was the featured caller of the evening. She really set the standard for good callers. All right, here's our next caller coming in now. Hey, you made it on the air. What's your name?
Jessica.
There, Jessica. Another Jessica. How's it going? 2 in a row.
Jessica Diana. Yeah, what's going on?
Hell yeah.
I'm over here listening to your show.
Yeah?
Yeah, getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you're in the stream. So you listened to a little bit of the last call.
Yeah, that was something, huh?
It was quite deep.
It was quite deep. We need a minor piece of cues, I guess.
She really had a lot to say, and I was going to tell her that. I was going to say, you've a lot to say, but I pretty much did. I was like, let's talk again. Yeah, we talked for almost an hour.
Yeah, I listened to it.
Yeah? What'd you think?
Yeah.
You're a woman in comedy. That's the topic of tonight's show, is being a woman in comedy.
Okay. I'm trying to come at it from a standpoint where I don't talk shit. I'm trying to be better about that.
About her, or but in general?
In general.
Okay.
A little bit, I guess. Because I can be an instigator, I guess, and I need to be better about it. But I'll come from a more neutral standpoint. I understand the concept of needing a safe space to perform freely. I get that. But to expect everybody to assimilate to your agenda, I think, is a completely ridiculous thing to expect. It's not going to happen. It's not.
Right.
It will a little bit, I think. Equality, sure, 100%. But to expect people to consider other people's feelings before they make a joke is asinine, and it's I think it's naive. It's a naive thing to think. But,
right. A lot of people want to condition their jokes for an audience before they even give it to an audience in its raw form. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. I was like, well, I do it all the time. And sometimes it actually, when it works, it's the best feeling ever. When a raw joke that you think is offensive gets a laugh, that's the best.
Oh yeah, there's no greater feeling to work on a joke that you don't really do. That more offensive material, do you get to work on that a lot?
I mean, that's what
Like,
open
do you have
mics
more of
pretty.
those?
I would do them at
Well,
any
you-
open mic. There's no joke I wouldn't do at an open mic
Yeah.
if it's a joke.
Well.
Like, as long as I think it's funny, I'll try it anywhere. I don't care.
That's the whole thing. Is just like I was listening earlier. Is just make sure you're more funny than trying to make a point. And there's a really weird shift happening right now where people are focusing more on making a point and
Yeah.
prodding their political agendas and kind of slipping into that.
I agree with that.
line
It's
of-
about getting the laughs. It should
it.
it should be about getting laughs, not claps. And
Hey, claps, fuck claps. Why do you want claps? If it's a really
It's
clever
boring.
fucking
I never respond to
see-
claps, even if it's good claps. Even if it's like a, following a laugh, I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. I tune it out.
Why do you tune it out? That just means you wrote a good joke. Why do you do that?
I don't know. It's literally, I don't know. I just do. Because I don't register it as real approval. I just register it as, it's just noise of approval.
No,
it's not laughs.
No, absolutely not. Because I don't hear you don't hear that enough. I don't.
Well, okay, fair enough. I mean, it doesn't make me feel bad.
It should make you feel good. That's when you know that you wrote a clever joke. Clever jokes get the post laugh clap.
Right. Well, that's fair. As long as it follows a laugh, then it's fair. I just like the ratio of laughter to be high. But
If the misdirection, if it's misdirection,
Right.
a clever misdirection, then 100%.
Yeah,
I'll
if you're-
fucking clap for that.
even misdirection jokes, I don't like doing for some reason. Like I have some that are very reliable, but that makes
Right.
me think they're cheating or something. But anyway, you were saying that there's some value to safe spaces. Did you mean for women?
I mean for anybody.
For anybody?
And before, if you asked me 4 or 5 months ago, I would tell you, no, fuck that, dude. If you need a safe space to do comedy, don't do comedy. And I thought that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And until I went to a couple of open mics where it's filled with a bunch of just privileged white dudes that want to come in there and tell tranny jokes and midget jokes.
That's me.
I mean, whatever.
So
Fucking
you're
do it. If
saying
it's
that
funny,
who needs? So you're the people. So that's the safe space purpose would be to protect whom?
well, just put it like this: you have somebody that, like, let's just say you have a transsexual person that's number whatever, he's down on the list. Then you have 5, 6, 7, 8 dudes talk, and a few of them make, transsexual jokes, and then you got to go up there. I feel like it would, if you're just shitting on a certain person, and then they got to go up there, it would make me so uncomfortable. Would I try
Yeah.
to make you laugh? Yeah, sure, but so I think that's one thing that I try to humble myself and consider is that not everybody is resilient or numb to being poked and prodded and roasted. Some people don't like it.
Well, I'd agree
I don't-
that if someone just goes up there who's not trans and does a bunch of anti-trans jokes, that is the most risky thing you could do, especially
Yeah.
in Chicago where there are a lot of people doing comedy who are trans. But
Well, you see-
aside
you
from that,
You see newer comics do it, and you see like a few comics from the burbs come down to the city and do a mic, and that's where you'll really hear it. But
yeah.
anybody that's out doing it constantly, you kind of pick up pretty quickly whether someone's okay with you telling a midget joke or you telling a racist joke or a gay joke.
Because I do all of
Um,
those jokes, by the way. But
That's fine.
I
If they're funny, I
fe-
don't give a shit.
I
Bring them on. If you have
if they're
one where
funny.
you combine everything.
I just feel like there's got to be somewhere to try out those jokes before you even know if they are funny. Like, how would you know if they're funny if you're not allowed to say them even at an open mic?
Exactly.
So you would,
Which I agree
agree.
with.
So you would say that open mics should generally, like, by safe space, do you mean like literally, like they would give you a bunch of rules and say, okay, you're not allowed to joke about this, this, and this?
I feel like when you create those mics, you're gonna weed out those those comedians that are just trying to purposely be hurtful and then go for that low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
And not really put any quality to their joke. If it's a clever fucking joke, dude, yeah. I run a mic where that's all people do.
Exactly.
They do this shitty material, and I love it because you can do it other places, but it's nice to have an environment where you don't feel like you're gonna get reprimanded or.
It's great.
I don't know. He said spick on stage, and it's like. Whatever, dude. Like, if it's funny, it's funny. And
right. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's what we have to remember is like we're all doing this for our own reasons. I mean, who was that? Your previous caller, Jessica? Who?
To be honest, I don't know if she would want me to even say her last name because I did not say it yet. But she's she's.
I know. I was like. I feel like I know who she is.
She's only been doing it since March. She's
newer.
Yeah, so yeah, and she's in the Femcom group of. I just like using that word because it's like a slur. It's like something I could use to. I'm just kidding, of course.
Is she in the famous women's comedy Facebook page? Is that
I should have asked her about that. Yeah, I should have asked her about that. I don't want to make assumptions.
I've never been in that group. I've never had any interest. I don't see. I think it's fucking stupid. It's like
right.
It's a page for a bunch of cackling hens to go sit there and shit on.
I mean,
somebody
she said she was pro canceling people. I think like she said she wanted to cancel some type of person. So she's that. But So the point. I kind of got the gist when she said everybody hates Louie. I was like, whoa, whoa. Yeah, she went on a very long intro where it's like, wow, she's bringing up a lot of topics that I could interject on, like the Louie thing.
Many, and I've been typing. I'm like, let me on, because I had. One thing I like, Tim, is I love arguing. As much as I say, like, I don't like drama, I fucking love arguing.
It's an art.
Especially when I'm right.
Yeah.
Just, yes, fucking please let me.
Yeah, especially when I'm right.
Make
you
feel stupid.
But
yes. It's a very invigorating feeling. Like my palms are sweating because I was just so eager to just. But I have to remember to fight intelligently and not just to be fucking mean and bitter.
So back to get actually to the crux of what I was asking. So you are pro safe space in comedy.
I wouldn't say pro safe space. I get them.
Mm-hmm.
Do I agree with them? And have I been to those rooms? I've done showcases for people that are for like people that have been sexually assaulted and all those things, and it's a very supportive atmosphere. And for some people, they do comedy because it is a release, and it's a breakthrough for them, or it's something they've always wanted to do. And I get it, and I empathize, and like I don't give a shit. Like, yeah, fine, go ahead. Are you gonna be a big time fucking comic? Probably not, but I don't know, maybe, but I don't think so.
So you're saying on the show level, on the production of like what you want to produce as a show, you're okay with that? Like if there's a particular theme of comics that we're going to book, and it's this political identity, and we want it to be this type of comedy, you're okay with that? But what about at open mics?
I think it should be a lot looser. But if somebody wants to create that environment for comics to do it, and then they only decide to do other safe space, whatever, it's going to keep our list shorter.
Because that's already happening, yeah. There's already tons of shows like that.
Yeah.
There's shows that are just themed on body positivity.
Yeah, body positivity, non-binary. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Young Ryan. Dude, I grew up in DeKalb, and then I was living in Florida. So I was living in these very, like, redneck, fucking Florida being the bayou, just ignorant.
I don't call it redneck. I call it working class.
Working class. There we go. But then again, those are the people that you're wanting to entertain. And the problem with Chicago comedy is that we're focusing on just pleasing each other, and it's all about who's doing what. Who gives a fuck about these people? Because I'm not worried about. Let me just say, I'm not worried about these people, because as soon as you go out and I know you've done it. You've done shows out where working class people pay to see you. They don't know they pay $5-10 to see a show. They just want to hear someone laugh. They're not gonna fucking care about. They don't know what genderqueer anything is. These people don't. These fucking 45, 50-year-old men wearing fucking overalls, coming and drinking old style. They have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, and talking about body positivity and women and Me Too and all that shit. They have no idea. They just want you to make it. So I'm not worried about those people. Let them do it. Let them go fucking create a safe space in a fucking cafeteria where men can't be within 100 fucking yards. That's fine, because I'm not concerned about them.
There are certain things that you would obviously not be pro, like obviously someone just trying to offend somebody, but I don't know how common that even is. It's probably like 1% of, like, nobody wants to offend. It's just that they're not good enough. They just don't know what the fuck they're doing, I think, in my opinion.
They're working out the kinks.
Most of them.
I feel like when Anthony Jeselnik started out, he was probably shit. He probably thought, being mean and being offensive was funny. And then the more you do it, at the end of the day, the more you do it, the more you quickly navigate what is and isn't okay.
Right.
And you could tell immediately when the audience doesn't react the way you want them to. So a joke that you tell that, like, is funny as hell, and then in your head, and then you go up and do it, oh, okay, I guess it's not fun to make fun of molesting foster kids. Okay, maybe. Right. And it's the topic itself could be funny, but that's where you're writing, it's where the talent, and that's where that's the exercise of structuring the joke to make it funny. It's how you're communicating it that's making it terrible. The topic could be funny as hell, but that's half the battle, is how it's written, right?
Well, I respect everything you're saying, and also the fact that you are not in the female-only comedian group, even though you know you could be, just as a spectator. Nope. Even you're not, and there's something about that seems appealing, just because it shows that you don't care about, immutable characters.
If you've been assaulted.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I do even. I care if someone's not. I mean, it depends if it's like a comedian or something. If it's a comedian that's assaulting people, then I kind of want to know. But other than that,
yeah. If you have a piece of shit that's running around doing this to people. I mean, I've had my own experience earlier in the year, and I thought I was kind of immune to it just because I'm more brazen and a bit of a loudmouth. And then you realize that there are pieces of shit everywhere. But I think that group, not to shit on it, but also to shit on it because I don't really care much for repercussions, is I'm also not into just gossip.
Really?
I love gossip. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I love gossip.
Just checking.
I will fucking gossip all day. But when it just comes from stupidity and you're trying to tear somebody down, and the consequence, the offense isn't great enough. It doesn't outweigh the consequence. It's not like, oh, yeah, that's deserve it. Yeah, fucking cancel him. Oh, you don't like what he said and it made you uncomfortable, so you shouldn't book him? Shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. And I grew up on, like, my mom would, like, play Carlin in the car when we were driving, and I would listen to this shit, and I'm like, this is amazing. And then my dad was, like, really into that fucking, what the fuck is his name? The dude with the leather jacket.
Dice. Andrew Dice Clay.
Yes, Dice. Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, he's the best.
His shtick, he's got like this, like low key kind of misogynistic thing to him, but there's still it has a weird allure and charm to it.
Oh yeah.
So
it's a character. Yeah, he
follow
killed.
His Instagram now. He's the fucking same. He's just got gray hair.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
He's great. I think he's funny. I think he's great. Whatever.
Right.
But
so I guess the same things I asked the last caller about the topic of just being a female, just being a woman in comedy, which you identify as. You're not one of these non-binary people. You identify as woman. So do you ever feel like
let me check. What is it?
Yeah.
Let me Google it real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Non-binary.
Non-binary? Yeah.
Yeah, let me Google it. I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
Let's do it.
All right, non-binary. Let's see. Agender people, also called genderless, gender-free, non-gendered, ungendered, or are those who identify as no gender or being without a gender identity. No, I'm a woman. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
100%.
Just checking. And also one of the
Okay. Yeah, so I am. So where are we going with that? Where are we going?
Do you ever feel like an elephant in the room as a comedian who identifies as a woman?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Just wondering.
And I say that because I mean you've been one. Like a lot of times I'm the only woman there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times I'm the only woman in the room, and I can see how some women that would make them uncomfortable, and I get it. And you know, it's not up to me to tell somebody how they should feel.
Right.
It's not my place. If I didn't feel comfortable, I just wouldn't fucking go. I'd find something else to do. I'd take up a different hobby, honestly, because you gotta kind of understand, being a woman doing this, is that you're going to be surrounded by a lot of men, and they're going to say dumb shit because they're terrible at it. That's why they're doing open mics. They're navigating just the way you are through your stupid fucking relationship jokes. I'm doing the same shit. Like, I'm terrible at it too. I fucking get it. I get it. But I'm never gonna tell somebody what they should and shouldn't say. It's not for me to say. And it's not for me to tell
so you don't
somebody else.
cater your jokes towards just one demographic, or maybe you do, but not women. It seems like you just want a general audience. You just want.
Oh yeah. I don't care. I've done the all-female rooms, and so my relationship and my coming of age and stuff like that does really well. And I like doing those rooms because when I work on certain things, I want to see that's going to be geared more to that.
Right.
I'll do the women's rooms, but I don't gear my material towards anybody.
Gotcha.
Because if I do relationship stuff, it's gonna get them to laugh. But then they're not gonna like my abortion stuff.
Yeah,
and
gotcha.
then domestic violence jokes don't really go over well. Like they don't like Chris Brown material, and they don't like Chris Benoit jokes. Like that's just the way it is.
I like
that's
those topics, but that's just me. Anyway, did anyone say the N-word last night, or was that last night at your mic?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I forgot who did it, but
I mean, not good in the sense of like, oh, I'm just like good in the sense that someone had the chutzpah
to do it.
Anyway,
I think honestly, the whole point of that is to just break the ice, and so people that so to speak,
break the ice by saying the
break
N-word.
the ice of like, what's the one thing? Because let's be honest. There's 20 people that signed up and 6 people are black. The rest are white. What is one word that if they could say it in an offensive room and have no repercussions, what word do you think that they would really want to say?
Pretty much, especially if I liked it, but like if you say it at the very beginning of your set, then if you do well after that, wow, that's a rite of passage.
Exactly.
If you actually get the room to laugh at you, if you get approval after that, you're the best. But anyway, that's just a white thing. Only white people get in trouble for it, so that makes it kind of boring. It's like, oh,
yeah,
only white people can be racist? That's not fair. For other races, I want them to get some of the glory too.
Yeah, and it's not even that. Everything is like, when you're talking about oppression, you're talking about sexism and stuff. Of course,
there's a big umbrella. There's a spectrum.
It's popular to shit on one particular person because it's popular to do so. So right now, it's all about shitting on men, and women have the upper hand.
Right. That's what I was saying. There's like a matriarchy, but I'm just kidding when I say that. But I think it's more that women decide who passes more than men. I don't know. That's just my weird point of view. Is that
No, and you're 100% right, because you're trying to cancel Dave Chappelle over a special, and
Right.
to be honest, I'm sick of these. When you see all these comics at open mics and showcases doing jokes about Me Too, about domestic violence, about all this stuff, it's becoming hack at this point. And then you see somebody like Dave Chappelle just hitting all these topics, and it's like, for me, it's like, oh yeah, that's funny, but I don't know. I think I'm just numb to it. Can we move on?
I'm so numb to it.
Shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can we just fucking move on?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's what I would like, but also it's kind of hot when the fact that I'm an enemy, the fact that I'm so like considered evil, that's kind of exciting.
That you're evil? There's like
yeah.
Like rapey evil?
No, I mean just like in the ideological sense. I don't mean like actually evil. I mean like
You mean like just a natural antagonist?
Yeah, it's just like Dave Chappelle is kind of considered evil or whatever, just like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of feels cool. Makes me feel relevant. But aside from that, yeah, it's boring.
Yeah, well, here's a prime example of why you are, like, it's like, yeah, you're joking, it's a matriarchy, but like low-key, there's an element of truth to it.
Well, that's very fascinating that you actually said that, because I do deep down kind of feel that there's some truth to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't.
Well, we don't want to acknowledge it. But here's how you prove this right: is that we're looking at people like Dave Chappelle and looking for a reason to cancel him. He didn't even do anything. He just made some transsexual jokes or whatever, made fun of it.
Exactly.
Whatever.
He's the litmus test. If he's getting called out, then comedy is probably. Then there's a death going. Then there's a disease going on that comedy is riddled with. He's the litmus test. If he can't even get away with it, then we're fucked.
I don't think he gives a fuck. Like, that's a good.
Right, that too.
He
does.
Media.
Yeah.
So that's the best thing, is to not have social media, because if you're not there for people to attack you, then you're not gonna. Like, he's just gonna keep fucking doing it, and that's
true.
Fantastic.
But Netflix might not give him another one special, but that would be that'd be the consequence. Just less millions of dollars in his bank account, but whatever.
Whatever.
Same with Louis, just a couple less millions of dollars. Big deal. He's still a
I
millionaire.
would go see Louis live. I see that he's popping up more, and he's doing like these little bullshit tours.
Yeah.
And
he's trying to. Yeah,
I go see him 100%.
Of course.
Especially now.
Yeah. What is he gonna do? Not do stand up? The thing he's amazing at in his 50s.
Yeah,
he's just gonna put the towel in his last prime years of existence. Just not do it? No, that'd be an insult to the art form.
There was a joke that I saw where it's like Louis C.K. is touring again, and I hear that there's a special seating area for the splash zone.
Yeah.
Because he jerks off on his audience, Tim.
I would have the same thing. No, I'm sure people have made. Yeah, people love to joke about how he's. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Moving on. Anyway, so
anything else you want to bring up
right.
Before I get to maybe one last caller, or anything else on your mind?
Yeah, so as I was saying, the whole reason why I think that is a little bit of a matriarchy is looking at it like this. We're digging back in time, 10 years to bury somebody, a male.
Yeah.
But did you happen to look into that brief little poof of a guy calling out Katy Perry for pulling out his dick or something like that? At a
yeah,
party?
I did actually. Yeah, I heard about that.
Where's the backlash for that? Because that's hands-on shit.
Hey, when you're right, you're right. There's very little backlash for Katy Perry and any other sexual assaulter who's a woman being called out, except for maybe some exceptions. Like I heard a joke about someone actually did make fun of that comic Paula Poundstone for supposedly doing something wrong.
How is that not a porn star?
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a porn star. But she's a comic. I don't know. But I guess every once in a while it will. They do get negative attention. Female sexual assaulters. But
you know what? You know what's funny is that I feel like the females that are getting called out, they're kind of like these homely, And, like, not for nothing, because Lena Dunham also got fucking called out a little bit because of
Right,
that
she
Brad
did
Pitt
for
scenario.
sure. She did, especially by conservatives, mostly by conservatives though. No, and liberals. You're right.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I don't know. But Katy
Um,
Perry got a pass. She's Katy Perry. Let her grab some dick. She's a star, right?
Yeah, you're right. At least for now. Like maybe in a couple of years we'll become all like super equality and be like, nope, I guess we gotta call her a fucking pervert as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't feed me this fucking bullshit about equality when all you're doing is trying to tear down somebody because punishing somebody for somebody else's mistakes. And,
Mhm.
you know, it's not really about equality. It's not about equality. You want women to prevail so bad, and there's a reason why, like, a lot of female comedians are shit. Yeah, and then you create safe spaces, you're going to stay shit. So, fucking whatever, Tim.
Well, you're saying basically what I wanted to say, but in a very boiled down, brash, unafraid way.
Yeah,
But that just
I
goes to
live in
show
China,
that the
so I
paint,
can kind
yeah,
of, I can shit on my own people, okay? I can shit on white women because I'm a white woman, okay?
absolutely. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it's all
Mhm.
about
You
identity,
are,
identity politics. It's all about power, hierarchies.
that's it.
Yeah,
All right. I think this is good. I think this is good.
yeah, it was
This is a
good.
good
Thanks.
talk. I feel like I bonded with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for calling. It was a good talk.
All right, Tim. Have a good night.
All right, that was our second caller. It was 2 Jessicas in a row because that's how it works out sometimes. Hey, thanks for calling in. You made it on air. What's your name? You're almost to the point where it's live. I could hear him listening to this stream. Hey.
Yeah, should I turn it down?
Oh, there you are. Hey, what's up, man? How's it going, Dan?
Hey, good.
Thanks for sorry you had to wait so long to get on the air.
Well, that's all good.
And you're our first caller who from the tribe called Men.
Oh, good.
Do you identify as a man?
Sure, you could say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's brave.
Yeah.
In today's world, that is brave.
Yes, it is. It's funny. All right, I got to turn down the feed.
Classic radio problem. Classic. That's how it always goes. Can you turn down your radio, sir? That's hilarious.
First time caller, long time listener.
So yeah, dude, do you have any thoughts on anything that we've talked about tonight, or no?
I mean, sure, I have thoughts. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, I don't know. There's plenty. Everyone has opinions on everything. But
Yeah.
if you have anything specific you want to ask, I can answer questions.
Okay, how about this? Like, do you feel that there's a strong division between men and women, especially in comedy right now?
Not like a real one.
Okay.
I think it's more of like a.
Go ahead.
It's an illusion of that.
It's an illusion? Yeah. So, like, what do you think about the fact that there's, like, an all-female group on Facebook that just basically talk shit about men?
I have no problem with it.
That's fair.
They're allowed to do, like, people are allowed to make a Facebook group and say, like, I have no, you know what I mean? Just like when you're talking about the open mics, like a safe space open mic, I have no problem with any open mic. Like, you want to make an open mic and make rules, you're the one doing the work to create an open mic and put out a space for people to talk at each week. So if you want to create rules, that's your own thing. And then whoever goes there, goes there. But an open mic that doesn't have any rules, and then someone goes there and wants to create rules, that's where they're crossing a line.
Right.
You know, I don't think there should be any. An open mic is open for a reason. Whether you're an audience member or you're signing up for the list, it's anyone is allowed. A homeless person or a rich person or anyone in between.
So even if the rules are kind of what could be seen as divisive, such as basing it on gender, like, oh, okay, this mic, we're gonna bump women or something. Do you think even that you're totally cool with?
Well, no. I mean, if that's the rules of the open mic, then sure, I just won't go there unless I really need a spot.
Right.
But if someone wants to try and incorporate that, it kind of a little. I don't know. I think that's a little. It's just like just do the work like everyone else. Just sign up and wait your turn. There's no need to. I mean, unless someone wants to curate an open mic and they want to keep a certain energy and things like that, then sure, that's their own open mic to do that if that's what they want to do. But if someone's trying to create rules for other people's open mics, like just go start your own thing. I have no problem with people starting their own thing and doing the work themselves.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's it's a right to be able to do it, to set those rules. I just think it might be a hindrance, maybe a little bit, if it's a pattern to the art form. Like if it becomes a norm for there to be a process whereby your gender dictates which rooms you perform at, I think that could
become a crutch.
Kind of weird. That could get dicey, is all I think. So I think we...
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to... I mean, you can take an advantage of it, but then, you know, I don't know. I guess it's a very deep thing, but on the base surface level, my opinion of it would be to just sign up and wait your turn like everyone else. That's what an open mic is. It's open to get there 4 hours early. It's open to get there whenever you want. That's what an open mic is. So,
yeah, I agree.
But I think it hurts. It only hurts people to give them an easy pass to say, oh, well, we haven't had people just because of based on how you identify yourself, you get to cut in line. I don't agree with that. That would just be like doing it at the bank. Like, how does it help someone get their money out of the ATM any better just because they cut in line? It's just you got here. You know, people know when to get to an open mic. Just if you want to go up earlier, get there earlier. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. So I think we totally agree on that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see why being a woman makes it harder to get to a mic certain places unless we talk about how because you're an elephant in the room if you're a female, and then people might hit on you, they might make you uncomfortable, so I think that might be one of the excuses or reasoning for why they it's the same with feminism, same with affirmative action, and with anything. It's like, oh, we need to hire more women just because it's fair for Google or some industry, some company. But anyway, let's just focus on comedy, I guess. And you're, like we established, you're a man. You're a cis, straight, white, male.
Facial
hair. And you don't do that much. You don't do political comedy, I don't think.
No, I'm politically dumb. I'm politically inept. I honestly, what it is I get very frustrated and it becomes angry quick, and so I tend to I tend to just have no. I try to keep opinions generally off the stage, just because I'm definitely of the opinion of funny first, and I think it takes a long time to be able to make your opinions funny.
That's a good point.
It takes age to be able to make your opinions funny. Someone, it could be their first open mic, but because they're 55 years old, they have a way better perspective on the earth rather than some 22-year-old who might have been doing comedy for 4 years.
So even if
just being around on the planet has a better perspective.
Yeah. Like, even if you understand how to structure a joke, doesn't mean your opinion is going to be funny when structured as a joke.
Yeah. Anyone can write a one-liner.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah,
so
it's just an exercise.
Anyone can do that. It just depends on where that one-liner is coming from. Just like with the hatefulness, like what you're saying earlier, you have to have that certain twinkle in your eye to be able to get across with certain jokes, and that's why people that are new don't understand that, and then people that are older might have, they just have a more established personality. The young people don't have an established personality, and they're grasping for something that fits. Just like me, I'm still doing it.
I guess
I'm only 29, so I'm young.
Like, making an opinion funny is hard, even if it's a very shallow opinion. But I think that's also the best comedy.
Yeah, if people want to do that, then that's good for them. For me personally, I'm just not interested in that type of comedy. But I like listening to that type of comedy if it's good. But performing it, I'm not really. It's just different genres of comedy, just like when you say like femme comedy. Yeah, I mean, there's certain music that I don't like, but I can respect the fact that they're working hard to put out an art, and if people are listening, then people obviously like it. If people are showing up for something, paying money for something, listening, responding, then obviously they like it. So if I don't like it, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. If a room full of people like it.
So most of your
no
stuff.
matter what side of the opinion.
How would you categorize your act? Would you call it observational? Would you call it just zany? Like you don't do puns. Observational.
It's observational. The world of Dan.
And it's personal. Like it's just your point of view.
Couple of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, very goofy.
Mm-hmm. You don't do puns though, right?
No, I mean I wouldn't avoid throwing one in there.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
Whatever happens, happens. I really don't really look at like the definitions of my jokes. I just kind of like I write them, and then if it works, I just kind of stick with what works, drop what doesn't work, and just kind of move on from there and keep it going.
Yeah, you seem very not complacent. You're not complacent, but you seem very like you don't have any.
One of my friends called it. My buddy called it "toes to the nose" comedy. Just like I'm nose riding a surfboard up and down the wave.
Yeah. You seem very chill, just like because you're from the West Coast. You're from a very chill city, San Diego, and
San Diego is a lot of. It's a big military town, but it's also very. It's right by the border, so you get an influence of another country being right there, and then it's a strong military presence. You got like 4 different military bases in San Diego County, and then you also have a very it's a very liberal city as well. It's a California legalized weed, things like that. So you have that. It's a very big. San Diego is very much a melting pot of a lot of opinions.
Well, I've never seen you angry. I've seen you kind of like oh, I gotta go with these open mic. Oh, I hope I get up. But I've never seen you like with any gripes towards.
Well, I get my anger out when no one's around.
Gotcha.
Except my loved ones who will put up with it.
Right. So that's normal.
Yeah.
And you just.
I'm a very needy. I need to be liked. So when I'm in public, I like to be like, also I'm not an asshole. I'm really all for like just saying. I'm not afraid to say things. It's just why would I? Like I'm not an asshole. Like I'm not going to be rude. I just think it's rude. Like when people say certain words that are censored nowadays. I'll say anything, but why would I? It's just rude to do it. So I'm not. You know what I mean? I don't think people should be allowed to say things. It's just common courtesy. I think people forgot the term common courtesy. It's like when someone doesn't hold the door open for you, and it's just rude.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's on another level, but.
Right. And you,
that same feeling of just like, hey, you're supposed to thank me for holding the door open.
You're not trying to burn any bridges. You seem happy to just be doing stand up. And
I like everybody.
Yeah. And you don't expect the world to be handed to you. You don't have a big ego. From what I can.
Oh no, I have a huge ego.
Really?
I have a huge ego. Oh yeah, no, I expect a lot. I expect to be a famous comedian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't act like you're very humble the way you act, but I respect that you also are hungry for that. You should be.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of joking. What I tell people is I'm not waiting for this comedy boom. I'm preparing for the next comedy boom 20 years from now.
Right. I mean, of course you want success.
Yeah.
But nobody
doesn't. My goal is just to make a living doing comedy. That's really my goal.
Awesome. And you started how many years ago?
Coming up January 28th will be 6 years.
Okay,
so 5.5.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, so I did like 3.5, 4. What did I did? Like 4.5 in San Diego, then moved out here a year ago. So I've been in Chicago over a year now.
And so I guess in terms of this podcast, do you have anything that's kind of like scary that you don't like, that nobody gives you a chance to talk about, that you would maybe want to bring up? Anything relating?
I mean, if you want me to go into why I think they should be putting a wall up, then sure, we can talk about it. No, I don't have any. I think the scariest idea is the fact that people need to realize that there's other people out there with an opinion, and that's a scary thing for a lot of people. That there's other people out there that could be born and raised and think a complete certain way, and that they're just not going to change. Just like you're not going to change, just like one person's not going to change their opinion, the other person is not going to change their opinion. And I think it's just, if you want to change the world, raise good kids.
Okay, that's fair. That's reasonable, I think. And
don't scream on the internet or on TV. Stop watching the news.
Yeah.
Live for yourself. That's a scary idea. Live for yourself instead of trying to. Everyone wants to save the planet. This is my opinion. Everyone wants to save the planet. How about saving yourself and just making your life and the people around you make the people that you come in direct contact with better, and help them. Hold the door open for people. Help people out. Buy somebody lunch.
I think
Do
those
those
are
things to make the world better. Why is everyone trying to do this such a grand? I mean,
Yeah, I think those are
people
wise
forget about the
words.
community.
Seems like you're very wise for a millennial. A lot of millennials want to save the world.
I got beat
for
up a lot as a
for
kid.
some. So you got pushed into your. So you understand.
I got beat up by all creeds, women and men,
Oh, okay,
all
cool.
race and color.
So you don't have any delusions of being a superhero to save the world. You just want to be a good person.
No, I like everybody as long as people are nice. But then I don't know. It's a lot of growing up because I have a very I've had a very I've had a lot of anger in my life from me and from other people. So it takes a lot to come over to you learn what really matters when you grow up in an intense environment. That's why I don't like scary movies, because I'm just like, well, I don't like being in an intense. Me calling into this show is probably the most intense. Me talking about women in comedy as straight down the center as I did.
Gotcha.
My hands are shaking.
I understand, dude. Being on a phone line would be more tough than being on the receiving end. I have a very easy to, like, this is easy for me. One thing...
I like your setup, by the way, how you can get the video behind you. That's very professional.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm working on it. So far, it's been a good episode. Like, everything has been very cordial. And I forgot to ask the other guests if they had anything to plug, so I'm going to do that for you.
Oh, perfect.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
I do. I have a show on Wednesday, September 18th at Uncommon Ground next to Wrigley Field.
Hell yeah.
I'm doing a comedy show there. Me and Brad Kaufman, a few other people are on the show. So it'll be a fun one. I can't remember who we all booked.
Excellent.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of their names. I can't think of them. But
besides the people you
it's
mentioned,
a fun show.
yeah.
We're trying to hopefully get something monthly going there, and just start my own show that I can book and work and try and build. I'm going to hit the pavement with some flyers in a couple of the day of the show, and
That's awesome.
September 18th.
That's awesome, dude.
Come on out if you want to get booked on a future show.
Cool, man. I'll do that. Are you saying
All
that
right.
to me or to the people listening?
Oh, to the 3 people listening.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I don't mean that in a bad way. I can see their eyeball. I'm watching the stream. That's why. So.
Cool, man.
But you as well. But I already know your comedy, so.
So I'm not qualified.
And you had me on your podcast. Now I got to have you on my podcast as well.
Oh yeah, I'd like to do it. Sounds good, man.
Pick out some music, talk some goof about some music.
Okay.
And whatever's going on in your day.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for calling.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I like to wait for them to hang up because it's nice. It's rude to hang up on them. I like to see if they have anything to. I love laborious goodbyes. Anyway, we got one more call coming in. Hey, how's it going, dude? What's your name?
What's up, Tim?
It's Trevor. How's it going, dude?
Pretty fucking good. How are you?
Not bad. You're our last caller. You just snuck in right at the last moment, dude.
Oh, I know.
Sorry for making you wait so
We're
long.
ending it, so I was like, I better get in real quick.
Yeah, dude. Those first callers, they really had a lot to say.
No, the first caller was Jessica, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on what we talked about so far?
I don't know. It seemed like a very nice and cordial conversation.
That's what I try
know-
to do, yeah.
Yeah, because I could see how some people out there might try to do something like flip the script on her and, say that her opinion might not matter. And you seemed like you kind of justified how she felt in a way.
Yeah, she happened to be very good at She happened to be very, smart sounding, and I'm not that... she had me... I met my match, So it would have looked bad if I tried to school her. I'm not.
But you also don't want to do that on your podcast.
Exactly. I wanted her to have a good time, and also this podcast is not big and not even remotely big enough for me to be schooling. Trying to gain negative. Make people uncomfortable. So yeah, it was fun. And in the end, I think we agree on a lot. So anyway, there's no reason to be have any animosity.
Well, yeah, of course.
But it is called
It's-
Scary Ideas, so I do try to shake things up and stir the pot.
Oh, well, I could easily help you do that.
Yeah, do you have anything particular? Otherwise, I'll just interview you. I know that you started comedy within what, the past year?
Yeah, I started in April.
Wow. Okay, just a month after our first caller started. Wow. I think she said she
Yeah.
started in March. Wow. So I know a little bit about you. You got into it based on. Well, I know you first kind of got into it because of Kill Tony. I don't know if that's why you
Yeah.
got into it, but that's how you.
like half of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
The other half is I was kind of at a shitty place in my life in the end of March.
Did something happen to you?
So I had I have like a small group of friends back where I live, and because I live in the northern suburbs, I don't live in the city right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue was that there were three things that significantly happened that kind of ruined that whole month for me. And one was I had a girlfriend that we were dating for about 7 months, and she ended up breaking up with me the same day that my best friend was going to kick me out of the house that I was living in.
Gotcha.
And then I also lost part of my thumb in a work-related accident.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. So you got some physical injuries and some financial injuries and some other things that shook up your living situation.
Oh, yeah. It was real awesome.
So it's kind of like a traumatic thing, it sounds like, and so that kind of forced you to get into this art form that we call stand-up.
Well, what happened is after all that kind of happened, I felt like I was kind of on my own after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, this sucks. I used to be a very dependent person, and I was like, I don't really know how to be independent. Gotcha. And I was like, I got to get the fuck out of the house. And I've always loved listening to stand-up comedy.
So
and then I
go ahead.
And then I started listening to Kill Tony too, and I was like, I can't stop listening to Kill Tony. I have to get up.
It's crazy how many people get into comedy because of that podcast. Like, so many people on that show are people who've never done stand-up before.
I know, right?
But it isn't. I see why it's inspirational, though.
Yeah, because there's like episodes where like people who have never done stand-up comedy do amazing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then there's a rarely few where there's like comedians that have been doing it for years and do bad.
Right. Exactly. It's an even playing field almost. It's so chaotic. You don't know when you're going to get called. And you've done it twice. For the audience listening, this guy has done Kill Tony twice in the past year.
It's the #1 live podcast. I've kind of had to do some. I had to drive a lot for that, though.
Right. And it was, so once you finally heard your name called, like, can you give us a rundown of the nerves or the thoughts going in your head, or just the experience?
So the first time that I was on Kill Tony was in Madison, Wisconsin. And I had originally went to the Kill Tony that was in Chicago, and I was upset the whole entire time because they weren't calling me.
Uh-huh.
So I went to this Madison, Wisconsin one, and I was like, you know what, I don't give a shit if I get called or not. This is going to be an amazing show.
Right.
So, and I started talking to the audience members. You know, I felt really calm. You know, I was talking to like a bunch of strangers, and I was like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. And they were like, they've never done stand-up comedy, and they're like, yeah, we want to go up. And I was like, I've only done it a few times, but like, all you got to do is be confident and calm. And I don't know, I was like, I don't know, in between like 5 and 8 eighth person called up, and I got called up, and I was like, okay, now's my time. Let's go. And I was like, I wasn't nervous. I was like more excited.
Oh, nice. And so that went pretty well then, or how did it go?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I actually got to talk to Tony after the set, Tony Hinchcliffe, and he said that it was a good set, but he also knew that that I hadn't been doing stand-up for a long time, and that's something that's always confused me, because I was like, how the hell did he know that I haven't been doing stand-up that long?
Yeah, that's a good point. He probably just gathered it together somehow, based on your nerves or something. But
probably you know more than me.
And then you did it a second time. Where was that?
That was in Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne,
Indiana.
That's right. And that was not as good as the first time?
That was a different story. That was a tipping point where I almost was like, I kind of want to quit stand-up.
Right.
Because that one was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it was an early show preceded to the later show. And I bought the tickets like at midnight, and it was a 4-hour drive. So I left. I left really early, like 8 in the morning.
Gotcha. So it was quite
I drove.
thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Nothing. And you have to buy tickets just to perform on there? Like, even if you're... Gotcha.
Yeah, you have to buy tickets to get in. And I think they were cheap, though, like $30.
Gotcha.
Something around that range. But you only get a minute of stand-up comedy, too.
If you get up, yeah.
Yeah, if you get up.
Yeah, it's intense.
But this is the funny thing about this is, so, like, I went there, and it was a 4-hour drive. And the issue was, like, I didn't have any time to prepare a set.
Jeez.
So I was nervous, and I went there, and I didn't have, like, time to prepare for anything because I bought the tickets at midnight, and then I was like, I got to go to bed and wake up at 8 and then drive. And I looked like white trash when I went out. Like I was
Did you
wearing,
feel like white trash?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
I was wearing camo pants and a tank top that said nothing but Budweiser.
Do you think that hurt your set?
Maybe.
I think that's funny.
Maybe because I feel like you should look good for when you do stand-up, especially if it's on the #1 live podcast in the world.
Yeah. Not too good.
I don't know.
But wearing a Budweiser shirt, that's pretty... It's funny.
I don't know. I felt like I blended in with the people.
Yeah, that could only help at that point, yeah. Fort Wayne.
And Todd Barry was also there.
Okay, that's right. So basically the story is that it was like like the microphone cut off?
Yeah, so I told my first joke, and my first joke was like oriented to be like, it was like a Kill Tony only joke. Like you would only get it if you watch the show advocately, and that's why it didn't land, because it wasn't that funny of a joke, and you'd have to know Kill Tony really well to get it.
Okay.
And then the microphone ended up cutting out at me after that joke.
And did they make fun of you? Were they mean to you afterwards?
Oh, yeah. They roasted the shit out of me.
Well, maybe I'll play it on the next episode just to show what you're talking about, and then everyone will feel bad for you, and it'll just make a better narrative because this is, I don't know. So you got over it. I don't know if you're over it, but it definitely traumatized you, it sounds like, and you had to gain. So that made you want to quit stand-up.
Well, yeah, because I was like, Kill Tony was the reason I got into stand-up,
right?
And now I just did horrible at Kill Tony. It's like now I want it to be the reason I get out of stand-up, because I was like, that was horrible. Like, I did tell a joke that got laughs that was like kind of on the darker humor, gross kind of side, but I don't know. It was like I should have prepared a better set and tried a little harder. But also the audience was kind of a little bit dead.
Oh, okay. So I mean, yeah, it happens. So how long did it take for you to do another set after that?
Another set, it probably like half a week.
Okay. So yeah, so you still wanted it. You still felt the urge to do it.
Well, yeah, because once I started stand up, after that it was kind of like a drug. I was like, I gotta keep doing this.
That's how it was for me.
Plus, I have ambitions. I want things out of it.
Yeah, that's also probably a healthy thing. You got to be hungry. Yeah, so I mean that seems like you're pretty dedicated from based on when I only met you a couple weeks ago, but you seemed instantaneously. I could tell that you were like in it for more than the shallow aspects. Like you seem like a true comedy guy.
I don't know. I've like always wanted to do it, but I didn't take it seriously until I started listening to Kill Tony, and you just hear all these other people do it, and then it's just like, well, I mean, you got all these people trying it out. I gotta try it out.
Exactly. Like if you just watch professional comedians, then you'll be like, oh, I'm never gonna be that good. But if you watch an open mic, that's what makes you want to try it. You got it. So if any, like I just think that's so true, and that's why so many people are getting into comedy because of all these podcasts, and just because it's growing as an industry, I think right now, and there's people doing it for different reasons, not even because they were fans of comedy, because they just feel like, hey, I could do this, and I have something to say, so I'm gonna do it. And I think it's great.
Yeah. I've seen some people do their first sets. Like one time I saw a guy do his first ever set at the 10-year anniversary at Cole's Bar.
Yeah.
And he definitely bombed, but it's just interesting having someone get
what was
up
his
for
name? I'm just kidding.
I don't remember.
I just think it'd be funny just to throw out someone who bombed by name. That'd be so mean. But
I wish I remembered.
Doesn't matter. I mean, no one's gonna care anyway. I mean, I bomb all the fucking time, and it feels fine, you know.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything tonight, comedy-wise?
Tonight, no, because I got since I'm in the Army, I got fucking Army work tomorrow.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good excuse. Army work.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't true, but
yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of stand-up comedy for like 2 weeks.
But yeah, okay, yeah, that is a long time to not do it. Yeah.
Because of the military.
But you thirst for it. That'll just make you hungry for when you do get back on stage.
I know. I'm going to act like a crackhead when I get on stage.
Yeah. So that's fine. I mean, yeah, I get what you mean though. And anything else you want to end on before I wrap it up?
Yeah, I could plug something.
Okay.
I have a show at it's not my show, it's hosted by Ryan Webb, but I'm going to be in a show at Terminus Theater in Lake Villa.
Nice.
September 27th.
All right, cool. What time?
7:30.
All right, 7:30, Lake Villa. Sounds great, man. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, no problem, Tim. Anytime.
Absolutely. Cool, man. You heard it here first. We got Kill Tony comedians on. Hey, actually, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. I'm so not good at this right now. But thank you guys